This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show. It is our second episode this week, and because of that, we actually have two Moonlighters on today's episode. They are Andrew Zellmer and Matt Adams. Now, Andrew Zellmer and Matt Adams, those names may ring a bell because they previously have sponsored the Moonlight Graham Show. Both of them work for People's Company, and they are back as sponsors of the Moonlight Graham Show. But I didn't want to do simply just another ad read here on the pod because I didn't think it was really doing these guys justice, because they are both, in their own rights, big personalities, fun sports guys, and just a riot to talk to. And since every time I'm with these guys, I end up laughing almost the entire time because they're just so funny. They're fun to be around. I thought, why don't I bring them on the podcast to talk about their storied athletic careers? First of all, Matt was a walk-on lineman at the University of Northern Iowa. Andrew Zellmer, Big Z, I like to call him. He was a four-sport star at Kingsley Pearson in Northwest Iowa. And I want to talk about their business, not just because they're sponsoring the podcast, but because what they do, farmland sales, farmland auctions, land brokerage, farm management, 96% of the land in Iowa is farmland. And it's really what runs the state of Iowa is farming. And these guys are experts on farming. They're not just good sales guys. They're not just good auction guys. They have their fingers on the pulse of farming. And they're two guys that I admire quite a bit, and they work for a very entrepreneurial company in People's Company that I admire quite a bit from a professional level as well. So I really wanted to pick their brains about farm auctions and farmland in the state of Iowa because it drives so much of our economy. You know, you go back to the movie Field of Dreams. I mean, really, that's kind of a farming movie in a lot of ways. So for this pod, we have a lot of fun. I can already tell you, if you think this is just me bending over backwards to sponsors, you're not totally wrong. But you are wrong, because this is going to be a really fun podcast. It was an absolute blast to record. We recorded it last Friday afternoon. So you can tell right away, all three of us are pretty relaxed because we just wrapped up a week of work. And I also mentioned that because Big Z, Andrew Zellmer, is a massive Atlanta Braves fan, to the point where he went to 2 games during the NLCS. After we recorded this episode, he flew down to Atlanta the next day to watch the World Series game. He was not present for the clinching game, but this guy will drop everything on a dime to go see his beloved Atlanta Braves. So that's kind of how we start this episode. And I had a ton of fun bringing these two guys on the podcast. I really, really think you guys are going to enjoy this episode of the Moonlight Graham Show. And I'd really appreciate it if you checked out our sponsors as well. So these guys, they are generous enough to sponsor this season of the podcast. We're not going to be doing recurring ads here on the pod. So check them out online, People's Company. It's a really cool entrepreneurial company that I admire quite a bit, from their owner, Steve Brewer, to their top sales guys, Matt Adams and Andrew Zellmer. Great supporters here of the Moonlight Graham Show. Check them out on Twitter. Check them out online as well. So here it is, today's episode with Moonlighters, Andrew Zellmer and Matt Adams. Andrew Zellmer, Matt Adams. We are in Big Z's basement. Andrew Zellmer, also known as Big Z. We are in your basement right now. Big Z, I'm surprised you're home because we got Game 3 of the World Series tonight, and typically you jet set out of town for these and leave your family.
Yeah, I guess that is true. First, I guess the NLCS, I did jet set for a few days and go on a little self-cation to go watch the Braves. Get a couple wins, walk-off wins in Atlanta, but I decided to be a good family man since it is Baggers Night this weekend, and Cash is 9 months going as a skunk for Halloween, so I got told I better stay in town for a couple days.
So, Z, I just want to know, Braves win, Braves going to the World Series.
2 walk-offs in a row.
Well, yeah. So how does that work? They're going to the was it ALCS?
NLCS.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm a
Sports fan over here.
Yeah, real sports fan. So NLCS, they're going. How does that conversation go with Kelsey?
She's actually she knows my sports fandom. Like it's just, but I mean, it's not a great conversation. I tell her, hey, Braves just beat the Brewers. We're gonna go play the Dodgers. We got a couple games at home here that I'd really like to go to and kind of fit my schedule before we get really busy here before the end of the year. And she says, do I have a choice? And I said, I've already bought a couple tickets, so not really. But she's supportive. She knows. She's known me. I mean, we dated since I was a junior in college, so she knows my love for sports and for the Braves. And I told her they haven't made it since '99. And
did your son Cash recognize you when you got home?
he was excited. That's the cool thing about Cash is, he wasn't giving me the cold shoulder when I got home and telling me to do some extra work. He was just excited Dad was home, and he knew he could feel the adrenaline when Dad came home. He was still living off the high of the 2 walk-off wins, so no
Cash
two better games to go to.
Cash is king in this house.
Cash is king. Number one.
We got into a little Twitter tussle over this. And knowing that Cash didn't have a father figure around for a few days, a couple weeks back, I sent Cash some Moonlight Graham stickers. I wrote him a note, that I thought might connect with him, being that his father was out of town. Some of your responses on Twitter kind of gave me a little bit of pause. Like, did I hit too close to home here with Big Z? Because, I'm getting kind of personal. I'm sending your son letters in the mail. Are we okay? Do we need to bury the tomahawk?
I think when I first read the note, I was a little taken back. Everyone likes to think they're the dad of the year, and then Tim had to remind me that I'm a selfish Braves fan and left my family for 2 days. But it is true, and I know Cash forgives me, and I know when he's older and we're going to games together, we'll be all good. So the hatchet's buried.
Z, don't feel bad.
Tomahawk's buried.
Z, don't feel bad. Little Fitz over here, his dad smothers him. It's like the kid needs room to grow. Tim's with him 23 and a half hours a day. I mean, I think you're a great dad. I think we need to actually talk to Tim about his parenting style.
Helicopter parent.
Well, I tell you what, Fitz isn't going to make the major leagues without somebody looking after him. Matt, if you're gone for a weekend, does Bandit recognize you?
If I don't come home for 8 hours, already if I leave him in the morning, we come back at night, he damn near bites me every time because he doesn't recognize me. So he's I think he has short-term memory loss. The shelter didn't tell us that when we picked him up.
So Big Z, where does the NLCS back-to-back walk-offs rank for sporting events that you've attended?
So it's number one. I mean, back-to-back nights. So, but the one thing I will say is I went to 2 years ago when the Braves played the Dodgers. Ronald Acuna was a rookie. They were down 2 games to none, came home. I went to the first playoff game at Truist Park. And at that playoff game, Ronald Acuna hit a grand slam off of Walker Buehler, and that was absolutely amazing. Like I can't even explain the feeling in the stadium then, and I thought I'd never get that experience again. And then I go to back-to-back walk-offs in the bottom of the ninth in a series that we win. Because after that Acuna grand slam game where we beat Buehler, we lost 2 in a row, and the Dodgers went on to win.
What happens if the Braves win the World Series?
I'll probably cry. I mean, I know Tim. I think everybody knows Tim's an emotional guy.
I'm a crier.
Yeah, when it comes to sports, I'm hard on my sleeve, very emotional guy. So I'll probably crack open a nice bottle of whiskey that's in my, you see around the corner. I have a little collection there, and just have a few drinks by myself and probably cry honestly while I'm receiving text of.
Has Cash seen you cry?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if he'll remember it. When he's born, I think I was shocked for the first 5 minutes, and then I was crying. And then just, like, cool stuff you see. I mean, as being a dad, as you see him kind of moving for the first time and saying his first words, that stuff's pretty special. So it's tough to...
Did you cut the umbilical cord?
No, I was too scared. My hands were, like, going like this, shaking so bad. And the nurse was like, do you want to cut it? And I said, Honestly, I'm gonna mess them up. Can you just cut it and give me the kid?
I cut mine. All right, I cut Fitz's.
Fitz's.
Fitz's and Tori's, I guess. It's the cord between them.
That's right.
So I cut their cord.
What a moment. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to experience that yet, but as I sit here today and I think about that, it sounds really gross and something I don't want to do.
It's pretty gross.
But you'll talk to guys and it's like this moment that they remember forever. So
my moment was like I was just so like overcome with emotion and didn't know what to do that like they put the scissors in my hand and I was like, just take it. I was shaking too bad. I'm
not afraid of the big moment. I never have been, and that was a big moment for me. I was prepared. I saw the work that Tori just put in for the last 48 minutes.
Oh God, yeah.
And I thought, I can do this.
Yeah,
if this is my only contribution, I can handle this.
Ours a little bit different. Cash was a 10-pound baby, so he we went in for the C-section because they said his head and shoulders were too big. So it was kind of nerve-wracking because we went in for the C-section. They had a scheduled, so that was good.
Yep.
Well, then they had 2 emergencies coming before, so we're ready to go. Push us back. We finally get in there, and they find out they forgot to check the chart. Kelsey's allergic to iodine. So then they have to rewash all the tools, so they tell me it's going to be 5 minutes. It's 30. So it was just a whole, and then 20 minutes later, here's Cash, and he's perfect, and everything was great.
You've never told me, is there an interesting story how you became a Braves fan?
The main thing was when I was a kid, kind of like Tim said, I grew up in rural Iowa outside of Kingsley, and so we had a DirecTV because we're huge Dolphins fans. My dad was a huge Dan Marino fan. He's such a big fan that we used to get the Dolphins newspaper, the Dolphins Digest, that would have the breakdown of the pregame. We'd get it a week late from Miami, so the game would already be over. It'd give you the breakdown of all the players and everything. So my dad literally has like 500 Dolphins Digests in our basement from all the games. So huge Dolphins fans. We'd go to church on Sunday, and then we'd go home and watch the Dolphins play. That was our deal. And so we're huge sports fans, and so we had DirecTV because we need an NFL Sunday ticket to watch them, and that's one of the things my dad splurged on. So how this leads to the Braves is when I was a kid, the Cubs were on WGN and the Braves were on TBS. And I had a lot of friends that were Cubs fans, and I think the Braves were good. I mean, they had a lot of great players. Smoltz, Glavine, Maddox, and then, of course, my favorite, Chipper Jones. I thought I was Chipper Jones when I was outside playing out, and even though I was swinging right-handed, and he had the sweetest swing of all time left-handed.
Wait, not Jose Canseco?
No, well...
Never played for the Braves.
No, he did
not. Well, I know. I'm just saying every kid wanted to be Jose Canseco.
Yeah, I think every kid wanted to be Ken Griffey Jr., but I was a Chipper Jones guy, so that was my that was why I chose the Braves, and I could watch them on TBS thanks to Mr. Turner owning the Braves and TBS.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever meet who's the famous Dolphin from Northwest Iowa? He's from like Sioux Center.
Yeah, he played offensive line.
He played in like the 70s.
Yeah, I did not. My dad did.
Vern Holder, I think is his name.
Yeah, my dad could tell you all about that, but I always go back to people when they're making fun of the Dolphins, say 72 Dolphins.
I think he was on that team.
He was, but my dad has met him, at multiple events, like in Sioux City, to have signings and stuff. But me personally, I never met him, and despite me always telling people, "Hey, remember the Dolphins are the only undefeated team in history." It's I probably couldn't name the whole 72 Dolphins team. Like Tim probably could name about as many as I could.
I always liked in Ace Ventura when they have to go through the Dolphins team picture to figure out whose ring is missing the stone. You probably have that team picture up at your house.
It was probably back in in my dad's little box. I remember one thing is he had this Dan Marino rookie card, and it's like our prized possession. And our other one was my mom used to travel a little bit for work, and one day she was on a flight going down to Dallas, and she said she heard a voice that sounded really familiar. and it was Dan Marino. She was in the back of the plane. He was flying first class, and she's like, shit, I need to get something for him to sign. The only thing she had was like a USA Today sports page that she took from the guy next to her. So she went up and like, Mr. Marino, we're huge Dolphins fans. I don't have anything for you to sign, so we have this signed USA Today that has nothing to do with the Dolphins or Dan Marino, which is also still in our safe. Like it's like where like your birth certificates and passports are.
Yeah.
So if you steal the Zellmer safe, it's going to kind of be like Richie Rich. You're going to think you're getting a bunch of money, but you're going to have a Dan Marino signed USA Today sports
I like
page.
how your mom just recognized his voice.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you watch as much football and Dolphin stuff as we have, I think Dan has a pretty recognizable voice. And Ace Ventura, I think his voice kind of sticks out, so I think it kind of makes sense.
That is kind of reminded me of something I've been thinking about. So as I'm watching like football on Sundays or Saturdays, or even like my younger brother Evan plays at Kemper, and he's a sophomore. So I've been to a couple of his games, and these really kind of young men that don't seem like they'd have a deep voice. It's almost like you put your hand on that center's rear end, and the voice gets real deep. And all of a sudden, you think it's almost like they talk really high pitched. They get on the center, and all of a sudden it's blue. I mean, sometimes for whatever reason, they seem like they have a really aggressive voice at the line.
Are you talking quarterbacks at the line? That's
Quarterbacks at the line. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, correct.
Or linebackers.
I think there's something about like you got to get into your man voice, right? When you're a quarterback, because when you're taught, you got to communicate the play to everybody in the huddle. And I remember coaches saying like, "Hey, you got to make sure they can hear you," and yelling at you if, as a quarterback, you weren't loud enough for everybody to hear you. So that was kind of like one of those things that you're coached on. Of like how to yell when you're a quarterback, because of course as a quarterback you got to be the leader, you got to be the communicator.
Yeah,
and as the offensive lineman, we're just told to shut up and listen and know what the snap count is.
Well, that was debatable for me. For whatever reason, they gave me the ability to make audibles in high school.
Did you have that?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Quarterback on the field, on the offensive line.
Of course, I called the plays that were right up my left cheek and right cheek, because we were we were a rushing team with a force to be reckoned with.
How good were you guys? How good was Kemper when you were there?
I'd prefer not to tell you what our record was. You probably have some of your listeners in District 8 football are going to know how terrible we really were. My junior year of high school, we had a record of 1-8, and our senior year we were 3-6. But we did have a couple of moments where you wouldn't feel the record did not represent the team, is what I would say.
I do have a good story that I'd like to bring up about being a lineman in high school football. So I played Class A football, Kingsley Pearson High School, and so we didn't have a ton of guys. I think we had 41 or 42 guys on our team to fill out
more than
good
Kemper.
numbers there.
Yeah, I was going to say more than Kemper.
Okay. So I was a freshman, and one of our linemen got hurt. So I was the kind of the sixth lineman that would come in, and we had two guys that ended up playing Division I football. One was Nick Kuchel. He was our running back. He played at University of Iowa. He's special teams ace and played safety at Iowa. Wow. And then we had Nate Koskovich, and Nate Koskovich was a really big offensive lineman, played tackle at SDSU. And both were great players. So the first play we're playing River Valley, I come in. I play left guard. They run between me and Nate Koskovich. 94-yard touchdown. I turn around. There's a flag right behind me. Holding 61. That's me, Andrew Zellmer. And Nick Kuchel and Nate Koskovich gave me a little earful after that.
Did you hold?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was wrapped around.
How else
him,
were they going to get the touchdown?
and Nick was I mean, he won the Drake Relays 110 high hurdles, I think 2 years, and got for fourth in the 100 as a senior. He's a 1A guy, so he was really fast. So we didn't need much of a crack, and I just remember that look he gave me after he just scampered off a 94-yard touchdown called back from me. So that was a good start to my high school career.
So, Big Z, you mentioned you grew up outside of Kingsley, Iowa.
Yep.
How much do you know about Kingsley, Iowa?
How much do I know about Kingsley,
Yeah,
Iowa?
do you know how that town was started?
Railroad town.
It's a railroad town. Originally called Cora, Iowa.
Called what?
Cora with a Q. And then they changed their name around 1874.
Okay, yeah, you looked that up on Wikipedia. That was
Yeah,
good.
I did. Yep.
At the city park, they have a little
Or
plaque.
Corn.
I was going to say Cora doesn't sound right. Quorn, right?
That's right.
Yep. So that's on a plaque at the city park. So that's the only way I knew that.
So, have you ever heard of the anonymous organization that calls themselves the Spooks?
So they randomly do good deeds around town for people that aren't expecting it.
And this still exists.
Allegedly, I haven't heard of anything that's happened recently, but they are anonymous, and a lot of the people that get the good things that happen to them kind of keep it quiet. But yeah, they're still it allegedly still exists.
Interesting. So,
Good people in
do you
Kingsley.
know the motto of Kingsley?
Some bigger, none better.
That's right.
Ooh.
Famous people from Kingsley.
Andrew Zellmer,
And
Betty Dickman, who's my grandma.
there was a famous major leaguer from Kingsley, Iowa named Harry Gaspar. And apparently Herbert Hoover lived there for a while.
Yeah, I know where his house was in town, but he didn't live there very long. But yes, true. I did not know about the major leaguer.
Any other fun facts about Kingsley that we need to be aware of?
Not that I can think of. I feel kind of embarrassed that I don't have a fun back. I always think our slogan's great. Some bigger, none better.
I like that slogan a lot.
That's amazing.
What is the median income?
I don't know. Probably pretty good. It's a nice.
So,
nice
Matt, you're from the great town of Carroll, Iowa, a German town.
Breda.
Tim, I need to correct you.
Oh,
I'm
you're from
I
Breda.
actually grew up 8 miles north, 5 miles west of Carroll in a little town called Breda. And then that's not even accurate because you need to go 2 miles west, a mile south, and then another half mile back to the west on a gravel road. So a little acreage outside of Breda.
I knew you were from the Breda area, but I wanted to bring up Carroll here because do you know what the town of Carroll is named after?
I'm afraid I don't, Tim.
So the town of Carroll was named after the Declaration of Independence signer by the name of Charles Carroll, who was the only Catholic that signed the Declaration of Independence.
Oh, here we go.
Really?
I knew we were going to get to this.
We really?
Between Tim
I did
and Matt,
not-
we got the
that is
Catholic
interesting.
pride here.
As Matt and I, both Catholic school kids,
Oh, yeah.
good Catholics ourselves, and we got a Lutheran in the house. We are in the house of a Lutheran.
Hallelujah,
Right now.
amen. We'll see if we can be evangelists today and convert them to the good side.
Big Z, if you grew up in Carroll, knowing that town is named after a Roman Catholic signer of the Declaration of Independence,
I'd be a tiger.
you would. That would not have sat well with you.
Nope.
Oh, that's great.
Are you guys real farmers or pretend farmers?
Pretend.
You know, I think
you
we
did you
are.
grow up on farms?
So my uncle and grandpa farmed. My dad farmed until I was about 4 years old. So, I mean, I helped on farms, but I wasn't a farmer. My parents, when I grew up for most of my years, my dad worked at Wells Blue Bunny. So yeah, no, not.
Matt, do you consider yourself a farmer?
I'm afraid I don't. You know, similar to Andrew, our roots are in farming. My mom grew up by the little town of Manila, Iowa, and she had 10 kids in her family, 9 brothers and sisters.
Good Catholic family.
And really, really proud of what my grandma and grandpa were able to accomplish. They've acquired a lot of farmland, about 3 different townships, and you know, and then I have 4 uncles that continue to farm that ground. And my dad was from Irwin, Iowa, and he was they farmed, but there wasn't enough to do, and they weren't able to keep that generational farming going. But I got a great story. I remember when I was a little kid going out to my grandpa's farm, and they asked if I wanted to help walk the pastures and chop thistles, and I said, yeah, that'd be great. So I get this machete, this corn knife, and I'm walking around the pastures with my Uncle Bruce. And my Uncle Bruce, you know, he's a man of few words, great person, but man of few words, and we're walking along, and he was probably in high school. Yeah, he was probably in high school when this happened. And I remember just walking, there's all these cow pies, and me as a bored kid, I started flipping up these wet cow pies with my corn knife. And Bruce noticed what I was doing, and he came over to me, and all he said was, "Hey, Grandpa don't like shit in his corn knives." That's all he said. I was petrified. So, needless to say, I stuck to the thistles for the rest of that afternoon. So,
Did you guys walk much beans?
oh my God,
You walk beans with
picking up rocks, walking beans, and actually, I almost felt like the neighboring farmers listened to the radio station whenever they knew there was teachers' conferences or a day early out or school was canceled. Because next thing I know, the house would get a call, hey, can Matt come over and help today? And so there's a couple of neighboring or local farmers that had livestock, had pigs. And this one particular guy, great job, and I actually owe him a lot, and he probably doesn't even realize it. But so there was first days and third days for these young pigs, so it was a farrow to finish operation. And so I'd walk in there, and these litter of pigs would be, anywhere from 7 to 12 pigs per sow. And I would have to give them shots, and, it sounds kind of barbaric, but I think that's the way it is. You castration and clipping their teeth and cutting their tails, and there's reasons behind all that are, I think designed for the safety of the animal as it grows up. But baling hay, man, there was some great stories. I was always the youngest guy baling hay, so my older brother Nate and I and this guy named Bryce Hunling, we'd be working for a guy named Merle Witt, and he did small square bales, and we'd
not many small square bales anymore.
You know what? I'd like to give a shout out to the Sabers family, because they are one of the families that they understand the small square hay business.
Of course.
Yes, they do.
Well, a lot of livestock operation, especially horses, they don't want those big round hay bales. They want the small. They're easier to get around. It's better hay.
High quality.
Absolutely. So that's why I'm so good at Tetris, from stacking hay bales all my younger years.
That's a farmer joke right there.
Damn right it is.
I had a similar. I was probably a little bit more on the livestock side. Plymouth, Sioux County, up where I'm from, Plymouth County, but
That's
Plymouth, Sioux, Lion, cattle, pigs. So a lot of mine was spent.
Oink oink.
And Isoween to finish barns, working there, or helping guys build fence, neighbors build fence for cattle. So
I tell you what, to be a row crop farmer nowadays, pretty good life, right? Crop prices the way they are, the technology, livestock, that's hard work.
Yeah, I'd say people who raise livestock, definitely you have to have an appreciation for them, because they are working harder than normal.
They're working harder than insurance guys, I'll tell you that much.
That's right.
But not than real estate agents, just insurance guys.
I'm curious, Tim. Have you ever worked on a farm? Have you ever earned yourself some calluses?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Used to do a lot of bean walking.
30-inch rows or 15? There is a difference.
Couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell you what.
Grandpa Flattery used to get Andy and I in the summer. We'd go out and walk beans for a couple days every summer. In my memory, it was like we were walking beans all summer, but it really, we probably did it 10 to 15 times as kids. Every now and again, we'd have some chores. I like to think of myself as a farm kid, but I was not a farm kid. But, I'm a partial owner of Flattery Family Farms.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because when Grandma and Grandpa put that will together, it was only blood relatives were in that, that will or the trust or whatever.
I love that.
And I'm blood.
Actually, have you ever detasseled corn before?
Have not detasseled, but going back to my bean walking days,
I'm sorry.
Thing I liked about the was that there was a name for every weed.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're chopping the weeds. And I always liked, there's the milkweed, there's cockleburrs, there's the whatever. I can't remember them all now. But cockleburrs. Yeah, remember? I'm picturing a cockleburr right now in my head. And then you'd have those corn spiders. Remember? And there's these massive spiders, and they look like black widows because they'd have a big bright yellow or bright orange paint on their back kind of thing. And they would have a web that went the entire row of beans. And as a kid, you're responsible for 3 rows if you're a kid. The one you're walking in, and then the 2 on the outsides. And when all of a sudden you saw that spider, and I was just terrified of these spiders, it would ruin my day. I was so scared of it.
So are you more? Well, I was going to say, are you more scared of spiders or mountain lions?
Mountain lions.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah.
So am I.
Yeah, I saw a mountain lion. We recently had a mountain lion sighting here in Des Moines 2 weeks ago.
Not very far from here.
Not very far from here at all. They follow the river. They follow the river east from Colorado. So about once a year, we're going to have some mountain lions here. So this is actually the first time I've been out of my house in a couple of weeks because...
And you move close. I mean, Raccoon River's right across the street.
Yeah, so every now and again I do some workouts over here at the soccer fields, Raccoon River, big open area right on the river, and I got a constant lookout for the mountain lions coming out of the woods to eat me alive.
Easy picking.
Prime
little
hunting
Tim over
grounds.
there.
Yeah,
Easy
prime
picking.
hunting grounds.
What are you guys most afraid of? Sharks?
Well, Tim, I'm actually part guilty about bringing the mountain lions to Iowa. I've been going on runs with T-bones in my back, or T-bone steaks in my back pocket, and piece of sirloins
They've
tied
been
around my
smelling
ankles. Yeah, I've been trying to lure them into town just to mess with you.
Matt,
so.
you and I spent some time on a boat once. Another big fear of mine is the mountain lions of the water, sharks.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
when we were out on the ocean, on our sailboat, we'd be diving for sand dollars and for clams. It's 10 feet deep. We got to go down there to the bottom of the ocean, get those sand dollars. Was there ever a moment where you thought I might get eaten by a shark here?
No, actually there wasn't. But I was more afraid of drowning because I actually swim lessons. Did your parents make you take swim lessons?
I took like 4 years of them, and I'm still a terrible swimmer.
I was actually a lifeguard for 5 summers. I'm the head guard at the Loring Memorial Aquatic and Fitness Center. Did they have that in the Wikipedia
It
page?
opened up around 2000.
Yeah, so I taught swimming lessons there. So actually, I feel like I'm what's Waterworld? I feel like I should be in that movie.
Are you in the 1% of swimmers in the world, do you think?
Well, I like to think I am. Whenever anybody tells me they're a great swimmer, I think I can beat them. Like if Michael Phelps, I didn't know who he was, came up next to me, I'd probably be like, he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm a swim." I'm like, "Yeah, head guard at Loring Memorial Aquatic and
Don't
Fitness
recognize
Center."
you from Loring Aquatic Center.
So we have this bet in our office around People's Company. There's a guy that we work with who happens to have a dolphin tattoo on his ankle. So we just
Is it Big Z?
No, yes.
His name is Andrew, but it is not me.
Well, and I hope he's not listening to this podcast because I don't want him to think we're making fun of him because we're not. Basically, he has this tattoo, and so we're naturally, we're inquisitive about that. So what's up with the dolphin tattoo? He's like, "Oh, I was a swimmer," and so there's this bet. I don't know what the pool is right now, but who would win in a 50? Is it 50 meter or 50-yard swim? Whatever.
It's 50 meters.
That's
50.
down and back at an Olympic-sized pool.
And
Correct.
It's like, who would win the race? And there's a lot of money that's being talked about here between Andrew, and a guy in our office named Kyle Walker, who I actually don't think is a good swimmer at all, but I guess we'll...
Walker can't swim. He's a good walker, but he's not a good swimmer.
That's right.
He's a good sinker, it looks like to me.
Actually a hell of a wrestler.
Fact.
Save it for the next pod.
Yes, we'll get him on here.
So when you talk about how much, are we talking about a couple $100?
I don't have the bet. I'm not betting. I'm going to go win.
I actually think there might be a 4-digit number that the pool would get up to because we all want to see this happen.
Me in a bathing suit.
There's a lot of banter.
Yeah.
Where's your money, Matt?
What do you mean?
On the Dolphin or on Big Z? I know where my money's at, and it's sitting on this couch.
Anyone. Well, I'm gonna have to be. Zellmer might throw me out of his basement here, but you need to come up with a name. It's not the basement. This is a nice space. You need to come up with something here.
Maybe we can put it out to the pod. What we should name my man cave down here. That's
right.
actually very.
Tweet at us names for Big Z's.
It's
man cave.
It's crazy for such a hardcore Braves fan and Dolphins fan. Do you see any memorabilia around here, Tim?
barren walls.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you know who's in charge of the decorating. As you can see in the back of my bar, I would prefer to have a TV, and I have a picture of a bull.
I do like the
which
picture
is
of the horn,
it's a metaphor. Mess with the bull, get the horns.
Or a bull in the china shop.
Both.
Z, you're mostly known as a rugby player. You talked a little bit about your offensive line days down at Kingsley Pearson, where there was just apparently an abundance of Division I athletes at that school. So talk to me about rugby, though, because you were the guy that, hooked the Moonlight Graham Show up with the very first rugby episode here.
Yeah, so when I went to UNI, freshman at UNI, my senior year, well, I need to backtrack a little bit. Much like Tim, I was very involved in high school. Football, baseball, wrestling, choir.
Right. Third base.
4-H president of the 4-H club. I mean, so I was just very involved, and I think I was blessed to have that in a small town. I'm glad I could be so involved. And now, my kid's in Valley School District, so probably going to want to Tim's giving me that look over here. Maybe him and Fitz will have to team up somewhere. Time will tell if they won't let me in the Catholic school. I know that. But when I got to college, my senior year, I'd blown out my knee in football. So about 4 games in, I blew out my knee. First knee surgery, 1 of 3. And I lived on 7th floor Dancer. Shout out Dancer Hall. Great place to be. And one of the kids that lived next to me was a kid named Joey Ward. And Joey Ward's older brother, Jake Ward, a.k.a. Hoss, was on the rugby team. And so they're like, came up, some of the rugby players doing a little recruiting on the floor.
They saw your shoulders.
They said, hey, you should come out. You're a wrestler. You're a football player. None of us had any experience when we came. You should come. And I was a freshman trying to meet people, so I said okay. And one thing led to another. And actually on that floor, we had 5 or 6 of us that ended up playing rugby. So it was, and then we ended up being roommates, and it just kind of went from there.
From an athletic standpoint, have you ever been better at anything than you were at rugby?
Yes, I think I was better at everything. Honestly, I would say I was just an okay rugby player.
Oh, the stories I've heard.
Yeah, I think I get a lot of because I blew up my knee in rugby. I had 2 knee surgeries during my rugby time. So like our buddy Mark Thompson was a much better rugby player than I was. But I mean, I think I get a lot of my accolades because I
give a lot of money to the team.
I give money to the team, and I help coach when I was done, and I feel like maybe, sometimes the best players aren't always the best coaches. I was an okay player. I wasn't a great player, but I feel like my communication and being able to get people motivated was a good thing, so the coaching helped.
Tim, we're dropping a lot of names. Obviously, Mark Thompson and some other folks. Do we need to get them to sign off, or do we have to pay them for name, image, and likeness?
Come get us.
No, yeah, they can sue us if they want, but
I'm just kidding.
Kind of.
Great joke, Matt.
Yeah. Went over like a lead balloon.
So, Big Z, all-sport athlete, most famously known for his rugby coaching, apparently. Matt, on the other hand, plays for just a putrid team at Kemper. But you go on, there is more football in your future after the Kemper Knights days. Talk to me about, going to UNI and being part of that football team. Because you go there, we're there at the same time, but this is also some of the best UNI football teams ever.
Yeah, it really was. It's interesting as you're growing up. So we didn't start. I never flag football wasn't an option as a kid, or if it was, my parents weren't involved. So one of eight kids, and there's only your parents can only get you to so many practices or watch so many games every night. So I've never played a day of organized baseball in my life, t-ball or anything. So because my parents said, "Hey, we're taking the summers off."
Hey, you don't look like it. This sport requires a little bit of skill, Matt.
Yes,
you don't look like that type of guy.
Some hand-eye coordination. So
I'm kidding.
But anyway, so and there's just limited money. I mean, we were so poor growing up that my dad would take a piece of bacon in the morning and he'd tie a piece of string to it, and he'd hand it around the table. We all have a chance to chew on it for a while, and if any of us try to swallow it, he'd yank it back out. So it's so sports were limited. So football and basketball were the 2 sports that I really took paid attention to or liked playing. And so anyway, so 7th grade starts, and I was naturally pretty big. I developed pretty early. So 7th grade, I was a pretty big kid. 8th grade, big kid.
Hair under your armpits?
God, I think I was shaving like 6th grade.
Grizzly Adams, Grizz.
Yeah.
I mean, that nickname don't come from.
Yeah, you don't come from no peach fuzz, let me tell you. So anyways, so Kemper was a great experience. It was Bob Irwin was our coach, and I always like telling this story. So we used to go full pads Monday. I don't know what you guys did. Maybe I'm just getting soft. But we did full pads Monday, full pads Tuesday, full pads Wednesday, and then Thursday before the games we're still, beating up on each other. I don't even think we were shells. And I asked Coach one day when I was going from my junior year to my senior year, I said, "Hey, Coach, I kind of feel like I'm getting some of my biggest hits out for the week during the week. Do you think we can maybe go shells on Thursdays?" And he had a real raspy voice, and he says, "Adams, I'm starting to think you're weak. Look like Tarzan, play like Jane." Is what he told me. So I didn't ask him anymore about going to Shells. So
Sounds like a recipe for a team that wins 4 games in 2 years.
yeah, a little bit.
All the hard-nosed coaches, it's
Yeah.
like have to hit all week. All the good coaches is like have an hour and a half practice and know what they're doing and are confident in what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, Coach was a great guy. Rest in peace. He did it. He did his best. But so I graduated from.
man.
I graduated from UNI, and I actually visited a lot of D2 schools. I even went to the Division III school. The idea was I didn't know anything else through high school other than football and basketball. And you knew, as a 6'2" post, I knew I wasn't probably gonna, have much playing time there and anywhere.
Did you lead in any stats at Kemper in basketball besides technical fouls? Obviously,
Jess Behrens and I will argue about this, but I actually averaged probably 14 points a game and about 6 rebounds a game. And Jess claims that he, I hope he listens to this podcast because we need to get this straight. We need to go into the archives and we need to figure this out. This is the Hawk 10, yeah.
This is the Hawk 10.
Yeah, I was actually a decent
You're probably all conference with 14 points a game.
I was.
I mean, this is Harlan,
Yeah.
Lorinda.
So
Carroll
yeah,
High, Atlantic.
if the floor is open for a little braggadocio, I was a honorable mention in basketball and second team all conference my senior year, or junior year honorable mention, senior year second team. Football,
First team.
got to be first team. Yeah,
Of course.
So, anyways, went off to UNI and walked on. It was I visited Morningside, almost went to Morningside, and had a
Coach Tim Ryan.
Yeah,
coach.
You know what? And I don't really have a regret, but you met that guy. They were just coming off like a 1-11 or 0-12 season. They weren't good. I think he's very responsible for turning that program around. And so I almost went there, and then
Sounds Catholic.
and then eventually went back to UNI, and I played for or walked on the team for 2 years. And the story, when people ask how my experience was or what position I played, I tell them guard, center, and tackle, which essentially equates to center of the bench, guard the water, and tackle anybody that comes near it. So,
Where'd you get that joke?
oh, I don't know. But
Other
anyway.
walk-on linemen say a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Maybe is that what your coach told you? Your position coach told you?
A lot of time to come up with jokes when
What's
you're.
it like being a walk-on lineman at UNI? There's a lot of. I mean, at that time, there was like a lot of future NFL guys in the lineman room, and you're just kind of, the tackling dummy.
Yeah, no, it was great that first year. You're on a team, you're part of the regimen, and you're lifting, you're practicing, and that first year, it's really just a really exciting process. They give you a T-shirt with your number on the sleeve, so girls come and talk to you a little bit more than they maybe would have otherwise. Yes,
Cha-ching.
very nice, very nice. Of course, they told me they knew all the starters, but anyway. So then the second year, it's like you actually wanted to play, and what it was like, what you soon realized was that there was a lot of talent on that team. There's a lot of bigger, stronger, faster, and it was a great experience. But I never you just really realized how much athleticism exists on that team.
Walking around campus as Matt Adams football guy with the number on the sleeve of your shirt that says UNI football, did you feel like a badass? A little bit.
I would say I had just a hair bit more swagger than I normally would have.
Because you're wearing the sweats. We all remember what athletes in college.
Well, now walk-ons did not get the sweats, but
Walk-ons didn't get the sweats?
you got the T-shirt.
I thought the baseball team wasn't funded very well. Woof.
Yeah, we at least got the sweats. Well, we had to buy them ourselves, but you're sure as hell I bought those swets.
Well, I paid to be on the rugby team too, so yeah, I get it.
But no, it was a great time. There's a couple moments that were pivotal moments in my decision. And actually it's funny when I decided I don't know if I was going to play anymore, or maybe I was pumping a dry well as far as actually getting some playing time. My dad was a little frustrated. He wanted me to pursue and go back to the Morningside, and even went as far as calling up Coach Ryan and asking him if he would have a spot, or if Matt if you'd be willing to talk to Matt again. And and at that point in time, it was a great experience. I'm glad I had done it. So I didn't want to be 45 years old someday telling my kids that, what could have been, and it was But and then
who were some of the? I mean,
Oh yeah, actually the
Chad Reinhardt, Austin Howard.
Yeah, Chad Reinhardt, Austin Howard, Brandon Keith. Actually,
Keith was like a second-round draft pick.
You know what? I actually think Austin Steichen actually had a tryout with the Bears
and the Chiefs. I think too.
And the Chiefs too. Okay, I'm trying to think here. I'm sure there were others, but
that was the game. That line, what I remember about that game was, you had Eric Sanders the year before. They almost won the national title.
Well, no, I was there. My first year, Tom Petrie was the quarterback.
Man, seems like.
Do you remember that name?
I do, but that's the first time I've heard that name in so long.
Yeah.
But then you had Sanders.
Yeah, and
then Pat Grace was like
2
years later.
I was gone when Pat Grace became quarterback, but
that's
Eric,
when I was there.
But Eric Sanders, I was still in college, but I was off I didn't come back to the team. Eric Sanders was I don't know what sort of records he has, but he was like such a surprise. I don't even think he was a scholarship player.
He was not originally.
Yeah,
from Olwine.
And just what an amazing year, takes you and I think who they beat, like New Hampshire.
I don't know.
I mean, I kind of remembered watching these games.
We should ask Gary Rima here a few weeks ago. He could have told us.
I'll text Rima about it.
But anyways, so actually it was a great time. They gave all of us walk-ons and redshirt freshmen, stuff like that. They gave us some stipend money and a bus.
Nice.
And drove us down to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we got to watch UNI play Appalachian State in the national championship game. And ultimately UNI loses, but
still pretty cool.
How much
experience.
beer did you guys buy with that stipend?
Well, I think we had a $70 a day stipend, and I think 60 of it went to beer. And so actually it was funny. I was standing next to a couple guys that were younger than me, Joel Gilson and maybe Nate Herrig and some other folks. And anyways, after the game, the Appalachian fans ran over to our sideline and started talking smack. And there was probably from where we were standing in the front row and from where the drop was, or from where the field was to where we were standing, was maybe a 6-foot drop or something like that. I don't know if I ever told you this. So anyways, these guys, all these fans come over and they're cussing at us and they're just rubbing it in that they won, but in a really derogatory way.
Profanity?
I think there was some swear words, yeah. So anyways, I'm just like, had enough. I was passionate about the game. I jump off the where we're standing onto the field, and I run out in the field in the first person. He's got his middle fingers up, and I shove him, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna get mauled. So I turn around, I sprint back to the sideline, and I do the whole thing where you like put one foot on the wall and kind of jump up, and it was like a movie. It was like timed. Yeah. And and Joel Gilson and some other guys pull me up off the field into the stands, and so I was safe again. But the funniest part about that story was that the guy that I pushed was missing a leg and was on a crutch. I didn't really notice it until afterwards, or think of it. But yeah, it was absolutely
a cripple.
It was, and so I don't necessarily feel great about that. But I was heat of the moment. Wanted to protect, wanted to defend UNI's
honor,
and that's what I did. So I'll see Joel Gilson. I don't see him a whole lot, but he lives here in the Des Moines Metro, and him and I, that story always gets talked about. So
since you guys are pretend farmers, I got a little bit of a farm quiz for you.
Okay.
First question, farm quiz: how many acres are there in the state of Iowa that are farmed?
Tillable acres? 30.8 million.
What did you say?
30.8 million tillable
Matt, what
acres.
do you think?
I second that.
And if you say different, then you're wrong.
I got 30,622,731.
Well, after that Apple project west of town, it went down a little bit.
So I think it's 30.6.
It's 30.8.
So let me ask you this, because the stats that I looked up had the total state of Iowa has 35.7 million acres in the state. 30.6 of that is tillable acres, but only 26.2 of that is cropland. So what's the delta there? 4.4 million acres of delta.
That is the CRP
Conservation Reserve Program, which is a program the NRCS and FSA offices put in.
What's NRCS?
natural resource
Conservation Society.
I don't know.
Actually, I know. I should know that. Natural Resource Conservation Service. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So that's like for the pheasants?
Yeah, so basically you have the FSA and the NRCS. I mean, a lot of the old-timers call it the set-aside program. And so that program was designed, actually in the 1980s, it was designed to take your less profitable, your poorer ground, and you would seed it into a native prairie or something like that. And obviously the programs have evolved substantially.
Was this Harkin? Is this like Harkin's deal?
God, I don't know. That's a good point. Who was a politician who introduced this? I don't know.
It would have been on more of a federal level because it wasn't just
that's
a
good
federal
point.
program, not just. But I'm not saying that
Harkin was a senator.
I agree, but I'm saying it would have been more than just Harkin. So it wasn't like
I think this spun out of the. I'm being assumptive, and someone's going to have to fact check me on this, but I'm fairly certain it came out of the 1980s farm crisis. So,
sounds like Harkin. I'm kidding.
Probably was.
I have no idea.
Actually, can you tell me?
it sounds like Grassley. I mean,
it actually does
he's
sound like
obviously
Grassley. Yeah, he's
Chucky.
he's for the farmer.
No way he's been around that long.
Oh gosh.
Second question of my farm quiz. What is the most expensive cash crop in the world?
The most expensive cash crop in the world. Can you give me a hint? Is it in the United States?
Is it a fruit or is it a nut?
It's not normally typically found in the United States.
Teak trees.
No. It's not a fruit or a nut.
No, it's a teak tree. It's a kind of wood that can only be grown in certain parts of the world.
It's a spice.
Like some kind of pepper? I don't know.
Saffron?
Never would have guessed.
$2,500 a pound.
Hey, speaking of that, there's a coffee out there called Kopi Luwak. Kopilewak. I should have guessed that. The joke of it is that it's called cappuccino, because what they do is they take these coffee beans and they feed them to these animals, and then after the animal eats it, and there's some sort of chemical reaction, and they pick it out of the poop, and it creates this taste, and it's like $30 per cup of coffee.
The poop.
The beans. They take the beans.
They take the beans out of the poop?
They take the beans out of the poop, hopefully wash
Who's
them.
drinking this stuff?
I have had it.
You've had it?
Yeah.
He's so bougie.
Yeah. Yeah, I went and saw
a guy from 2 miles outside of Breda, Iowa is drinking cat poop coffee?
Hey, that's right. Times are tough. But anyways, I thought
$30 a cup.
Yeah, you're telling me it's the most expensive thing in the world. It's tough for the times.
Most guys in Breda's got Folgers cans buried in the backyard with cash in it.
That's
no?
right.
That's true. That's true. Don't trust the banks.
Don't trust
the story of it was
Potter's Field.
Well, a mutual friend of all of ours, Mark Sabers, went to travel Southeast Asia for 6 months. My little sister and myself went to Indonesia to meet him. We went to a coffee plantation, so I think we went to the source of the Kopi Luwak. That's why we got such a good deal on it.
Okay, third question in the farm quiz here.
So we're one. Are we 0 for 2 or 1 for 2? Because I think
You're 1 for 2. I'm giving you the first one. Okay. Close enough. You're within the range. Third question is, in the state of Iowa, obviously the two most common crops are corn and soybeans. What is the most common cover crop in the state?
Cereal rye. Rye.
Correct. What's your favorite cover crop?
Radishes.
I mean, I think what would we put on our little farm that we have? I think cereal rye, probably.
I'm an alfalfa guy.
You don't put
alfalfa
as
is not a cover crop.
That's you guys are doing it wrong.
No. Alfalfa.
If you can afford to put alfalfa as a cover crop, you are a 1%er, Tim.
I like radishes because they go into the ground. They create more of a porous ground. So as the radish dies, it allows water infiltration, nutrients to get into the radish hole.
Okay. What is the most expensive price per acre that a farm in Iowa has sold for?
$26,000 an acre.
I was going to say 22,600.
22,600. Nailed it on the head.
But
September of this year.
well, okay, but it's a little deceiving.
Let's
because,
talk it out. Why we have different numbers here?
So that was just a recent sale that happened this year in Grundy County. So that's
right.
the one everyone remembers. But I think it kind of depends. Some people look at stuff different ways. So I'm sure Matt will have a good reason.
Explain to me why you think it's 26,000.
There was a sale that took place, and I think it was that's the thing on some of these sales is there's outside influences. No doubt this land market that we're in today is extremely exciting, and it's robust, and
we're seeing 17,000 an acre in Shelby County.
Did you
17.6?
17.6. Us real estate agents, we hang on to that stuff. We want to make sure people get it right. 17,000 versus 17.6. That's a big deal.
Especially when you're taking it times 300 acres, like Matt sells. 300 times $600 an acre. That's nothing to shake
We're
a
not
stick
talking
at.
about some 40-acre tract up in Allamakee County.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
We're talking about 300
That
in Shelby.
that farm
Eastern Shelby too, not Western Shelby. Where in Western Shelby there's a lot more terraces.
What did Heath Stein think about that sale?
He thought it was good for the county.
Yeah.
I'm going to go refinance my farm. He said, tell the banker to get a new appraisal.
It was arguably the best farm I ever had the opportunity to be involved with. It was
this the Des Moines
Proceeds of the Des Moines Opera.
Yeah.
Des Moines Opera?
Yeah, so for you listeners out there, this was Dr. Robert Larson's farm. He has a great story too. He was the founder and the originator and of the Des Moines Metro Opera. And it's kind of a cool story. The guy started from nothing. There wasn't like there was something there that he built upon. He started it. And he was prominent enough in the opera world that they would tell us. The story goes that the New York Met, the Metropolitan there, would say, "Hey, we need your help, or we need you to conduct or whatever this weekend." They'd fly him out there. So, anyways, he grew up in Walnut, Iowa, and
Antique capital of the world.
Yeah, it is actually. So he sells this farm, and it's going to benefit a lot of that. But it was it's like the Wisconsin Ridge, and it's the soil type was amazing. I mean, it was
Wisconsin. Does that have something to do with like old glaciers or something?
Yeah, it was the positive. So the soil type that you would find on that farm is Marshall soil, and I would put Marshall soil against any soil in the entire state of Iowa.
Nicolette, where you're from, and Fort Dodge, obviously,
Webster
the Flattery
County.
Farms.
Yeah, Webster.
Sorry.
Nicolette, what the hell?
That Canisteo, those are the soil types that are prominent in your area. That
Webster County is the best soil in the United States, probably in the world.
agree to disagree.
Oh, I don't know. You've got a little bit of ponding going on up there.
Oh no, we don't.
Nothing a little tile can't take
Where's
care
the
of.
best farmland in the state of Iowa?
Ooh, actually, Tim, I would say the best farmland and the highest prices are not as correlated as you think. This is actually an interesting thing. So you would say, like, town or counties. I grew up in Carroll County. So if you think about that, they're strong Catholic towns. And so one of the things that was synonymous with Catholic towns was there'd be the matriarch and patriarch. That too.
Purgatory.
But the matriarch and the patriarch would have, say, 10 kids. Well, then 4 or 5 of those 10 kids want to stay here and farm. Then you'd have those 4 or 5 kids would have kids that also wanted to farm. So you have farmland in Carroll County, when it does become available for sale, is such more of a scarce resource than, say, in the neighboring county in Carroll County. So does the ground in Carroll County outproduce land in Greene or Boone? I would argue no. But there is so much more money and generational wealth chasing fewer and fewer acres. So it's just like in Scott County.
Way more tightly held. If you look at the Boone and Greene County.
But outside of like the supply-demand aspect of it, just if I'm looking to grow good corn.
Yeah.
Dysart, Iowa.
Dysart?
Yeah, I think if you said, Matt, I'm going to give you 160 acres anywhere in the state of Iowa, where would you want it to be?
Webster County.
I would say I would probably agree with Andrew. Grundy.
Right outside of Vincent.
Probably Benton County. Grundy, Benton County area.
Benton, Tama, Grundy, right through there.
Yeah.
Really? So that's a little eastern, more east of where I was thinking.
But if I got a farm in Webster County, I'd be tickled pink because that's good farmland too.
Does the Flattery Family Farms want to include us in their trust? We're not blood, but
no, it's got to be blood.
We could be blood brothers. Andrew,
and I'm
get a
Lutheran,
butter
so
knife.
I'm definitely out.
Yeah, you got to be one of two things. You got to be Flattery blood, and you got to be baptized into the Catholic Church. Then you're in. All right. Well, you guys kind of failed that test. Next thing I want to talk to you guys about, and maybe the thing I think is coolest about your job is the auction side of it. So you guys do these farm auctions, and I've seen Big Z in action. Matt, I don't know if I've ever actually seen you in auction action, but these auctions, they seem like a game almost. And how long does it take you guys to kind of like know your role in the auction? Because you're not the auctioneer, but you're the spotters, and you're doing the yep thing, and how do you? Yeah, just talk to me about that. I don't even know the question to ask.
So this is great. So at every auction we do, we want a big team, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it. So I'll give you. So Wednesday, we have this auction in Walnut, Iowa, and it's they have this little community building. We booked the room, and it's this gym, and I walk into the gym, and I'm like, this is going to be, this is going to be too loud. I don't know if it's it's going to echo too badly. So I kind of started. I changed my mind. We go to a different room, a smaller room, because the idea for me is like I know there's going to be a lot of people to sale, and I want them on top of each other, sitting really close. I want it to feel very, very competitive.
You want it to get hot.
I do.
West
I want,
Gym.
and you want people to be there to bidding, looking around, saying, "Holy cow, look at all these people here." Versus if you're in a gym or in a bigger venue where you just might not have that. Maybe someone would. Some other people of our competitors might say that doesn't matter, but it's in my mind
It
that
matters.
So what we do on these auctions, we always have the auctioneer. We have 2 ringmen, which, like, let's say Jared Chambers, for example, was our auctioneer on Wednesday.
What's a ringman?
That's like a spotter, like
that's
you
the-
said. The guys.
Yep, that's the yep guy. But those
Are you a ringman, Matt?
I have been before.
Is Big Z a better ringman than you? I feel like
by,
Big Z's
by a hair, yeah.
really good ringman.
I just feel like
Right.
I do more than Matt. I think Matt's a really good ringman himself. Good at reading.
What do you mean
No.
you do more? Oh, you just
I participate
frequently.
more auctions, than he does.
Do you like the spotlight more than Matt?
Yeah, I think so.
So the funny thing about the ringman is, like, we sat down before that sale on Wednesday, and the whole idea of knowing essentially what's going to happen before the auction starts. And so I said, so-and-so is going to be here. He flew in from California. He's nervous here, and trying to give them some pointers about his personality in order so they don't, get in his face or do something be overbearing. And then so basically you just talk about the room. You remind everybody, hey, the runner-up bidder, we need them as much as we need the winning bidder. Let's go thank them. So there's actually a lot of little unwritten things that go into an auction that we want to make sure that we have covered, and the whole idea is to have a better sale.
All right, yeah, I'll give my little why I think People's Company is the best. I guess we are sponsoring the pod, so I'm going to give my little
Disclaimer here.
Yeah, so for me, I think the thing, like Matt said, a good auction team and a good agent that's going to market a property has a good idea of who's going to buy it before, and has the room set up to do that, and has the team ready to know who the people are. Are they comfortable bidding at an auction? Are they not? And I think People's Company does that better than anybody in the business. So we have a great marketing team, and we have a great auction team. And an auction's made before you actually get to the auction. So once you get there, like Matt said, we want to create the environment. We're going to get people excited. Jared's going to get people going. He's going to start out every auction. Where are we going to get started, Z? And I'm going to say $6,000 an acre. And we're going to go from there, and Jared's going to start hitting it hard. And then he's going to cry a little bit. 6,000, looking for 7, doing his whole thing. And he's maybe not going to get that bid. And then I'll say, first bid's always the hardest. We're not going to go any lower, boys. And he's just going to get it going. And then we start yepping. And, we get a couple guys going back and forth, and we build that excitement in the room. And then Jared's
once you hear a couple
up.
of yeps, you want to keep it going.
And then, you're a competitive guy. You've been to charity auctions. If there's something that you're bidding on and someone's bidding against you, you might start out and say, my limit's $500 for that. And at the end of the day, you might pay $700.
Hey, don't give all the secrets out. God dang it.
Oh, yeah, not all of them. But that's what I think kind of sets us apart. I think we have a great team, and the auction's made more before the day
Matt,
of the sale.
has there ever been a day where the auctioneer didn't show up?
Yes, there has. I was, that was a tough day. I was selling a farm in Madison County, and I don't know where the communication got dropped. So It's like 118 acres by St. Charles. I roll into St. Charles, a community building. We got the room set up. People are starting to come into the room. And then all of a sudden, it's probably 30 minutes, 25 minutes before the auction, and the auctioneer is not there. And because we hire the auctioneer, we have auctioneers on staff, so we've definitely never done it ourselves until that day. So anyways, I'm sitting there, and I call the auctioneer. He doesn't answer, so I call his son, who also works at People's Company. Turns out the auctioneer did not have this sale on his calendar for that day. So we're on to plan B. And we go into the auction, and I give the auction announcements. And I said, hey, folks, our auctioneer today, him and I, our wires got crossed, and he's not going to be here, so I'll be handling the auction today. And it was the worst day of my life.
Give me your auctioneer voice.
Tim, it was talking kind of how I am right now. I need 1,100, and I think I did.
6,000.
I did get a few bids. I think I was like 1,100, need 1,200. I got 1,100 bid. I need 1,200. And it was.
He doesn't practice in the shower.
Oh
as much as
man, I got a few bids. We sold the farm, and
Do you think
I thought
not
about
having the real auctioneer there, like, made a huge impact on the amount of money.
No, I don't think it did. I think it was a deal where it was the wrong time it was just the wrong time to sell that property, the wrong way to sell that property. We probably shouldn't have, on hindsight, have accepted the auction. But God, you talk about having 25, 30 people sitting at you. I think a couple of those bids were just because they felt so bad for me. So, but no, now we make sure the auctioneer knows the day of the sale. So, but yeah, great. One of those learning experiences that was probably a year or two in the business.
So our audience might be curious as to how, like, the relationship between you guys work, because you're both, People's Company sales guys, but I think it's pretty clear, at least from my vantage point, that Matt, you are Big Z's boss. So, Matt, did you hire Andrew?
Yeah, I'll let Andrew tell his version of the story, but essentially, I went through the UNI real estate program. So did Andrew.
Best real estate program in the country?
It is.
I believe so.
It is. Dr. Art Cox was phenomenal at growing that. So Andrew came to us as a college student, and we were a pretty young company at that point in time, where we didn't have necessarily a consistent intern program, a consistent hiring program, and so Andrew reached out and continued to reach out, and came to Land Expo, and I'll never forget, the guy talking about Andrew's knee issues. He comes to a Land Expo, which is an annual event that we host, and shows up with a knee brace over his dress pants.
You got it.
Yeah, so pretty much when I was in college, I was on the rugby team, and a lot of the things about the rugby team are true. Like, it's a fun team to be a part of, but we do like to party a lot. So my freshman year, I did pretty good in school and class, and I was a pretty good student. But the more I got indoctrinated into the rugby team and I moved off campus, sophomore year was a little bit tough on me. So it took until I went home over Thanksgiving my junior year, and my older brother pretty much sat me down and said, what are you going to do with your life? Like, all you do is party with the rugby boys and not thinking about your future. And that, I changed my major twice at that point. I was going to be a teacher, and then I was going to be something else. And then I finally landed on the real estate finance path. And that's where I found Row Epsilon. Like Matt said, he was a part of it. Our boss, Steve, was a part of the Row Epsilon club.
When are we going to get to
Hey,
the
you
fact
should-
that
you
you're
should
wearing
tell
a
him-
knee brace
Yep, so-
outside of your pants?
Tell him what you need to tell him what Row Epsilon is. That's we were not in a fraternity. I want to
No.
make sure people, go Greek life, but not at UNI. That's not what we did.
So Row Epsilon's a real estate program at UNI, and it's honestly like we're the only real estate program in the state. I think maybe Iowa State has a master's program you can get now, but we're the only real estate program in the state, and that's the club where people come to hire out of. So a lot of people from Principal, including Matt's brother, Nate Adams, was hired out of there. Matt, also Aegon, where Matt worked for a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of big employers, and then smaller employers like People's Company came in. And
why were you wearing a knee brace outside?
Okay, I'm getting there. Okay, so I wanted a job. Art Cox said, hey, I have the chance to go to this land expo every year, and the land expo's in Des Moines, and I had blown out my knee the weekend before and a couple weekends before in a rugby tournament, so I had knee surgery December 23rd, and the expo was on like January 6th or 7th, and Art's like, well, we don't have to go, it's fine, and it was a blizzard that day. I'll never forget. Art went and grabbed the UNI car. We're driving. Semis are about throwing us off the road, but we make it down. And I show up on crutches, and Steve and Matt are like, why the hell are you here? It's a blizzard. Like, it's whatever. And I'm like, I really want this job. And the nice thing and the thing I appreciate about these guys is they didn't lie to me. Like, if you want to be in real estate and sales, it's not an easy job, and the turnover rate's, pretty high. So they're like, hey, if you want this, that's fine, but you got to come earn it. So I tried to meet with them multiple times and get the job done, and I think me showing up in a knee brace to the land expo kind of sealed the deal. And they still put me on the starvation plan where I worked, which is a great
starvation.
Yeah, it's a great plan. So that's what we call it. So I worked under two agents in our company, kind of like almost like an apprentice. So Matt Adams was one, and I was Matt's first employee. And then the other one was a guy named Ron Beach who passed away here not too long ago. But he was he did a lot of our investor side of our business. And and Matt was more of a grinder on the, he was doing a lot of Madison, Boone, and Dallas County deals. And so then I asked Matt, I said, and Steve goes, I went to the land expo. I said, Steve, you got to hire me, you got to hire me, you got to hire me. He goes, if you want to get hired, you got to get Matt Adams to hire you because I don't got any more room. I don't have any more. So that's.
What was the final straw that broke the camel's back to hire this guy?
Pure desperation from. No, I'm kidding. I think the idea was the whole time where it's. I think you never want to give up an opportunity to mentor somebody, and Andrew came along and I wasn't necessarily just swimming in cash or deals or anything like that, but I think it's good to have an extra set of hands around. And I remember this one day, we had this old office, and it was so I started with the company in 2009, and shortly after that, or actually, as I graduated in May of 2009, I think I took a 24-hour hiatus after graduating from college and was just tired of being a broke college kid. So I started working for People's Company. We had this office that was below, for those that Des Moines Metro, we had an office below Bradley's. And,
below Bradley's?
Yeah. On the backside of Bradley's.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't awful, but it was like twice a month. Rotary would have to come out and clean out the grease trap from the restaurant above and just run all these nasty hoses through our office. And saw a cockroach a couple times, so I named him Sebastian, and he was my pet for a while. But anyway, so Andrew is just funny one day. Andrew's now in the office. He's graduated from college. We're working together, and I walked by his office one day, and I never thought that I would be a hard person to work for or tough. Always want to be the guy. I always thought I'd rather be liked than respected. Type deal. And so anyways, I'm walking by, I see he's kind of scrolling through Facebook in the middle of the day. And I walked by and I stopped, and I just decided that I better say something. I don't want this getting out of hand. So I walked back in this little cube area he was in, and I said, hey, and he quick does the click off of Facebook. And I'm like, hey, I see you're on Facebook. And he's like, yeah. And I said, when you're here, you're on my time. If you want to be on Facebook, you wait till that. So anyways, I guess that was the first memory I have of maybe being a little more of a hard ass than I thought I was. So
yeah, I think.
But I'd like to fast forward till today. Andrew's going to be at my wedding. We work a lot of stuff together. We're great friends, great coworkers. So I think that was I'm glad he was a persistent little shit.
Well, and as much as Matt was a hard ass some days, Matt was exactly what I needed because I was coming out of UNI, and I didn't know what I didn't know, and so Matt won't take, he'll probably shake his head and say no, but he's the best trainer or the best guy in People's Company as far as developing talent. So, I mean, if you look at the top producers in People's Company, besides Matt Adams, a lot of them are guys that Matt's trained himself. So, I mean, I'm not trying to...
We get it.
Yeah, enough of that.
I am the master.
Yes.
I am the captain now.
Yeah, he was the captain, still is.
Well, I want to talk about the Land Expo because you guys talk about this like it's some People's Company. We're just some mom and pop shop, and then I look over at this Land Expo that you guys have every year,
Tim,
and you got Kevin O'Leary coming in. You got Donald Trump coming in. Like, you guys get some really, really like A-list type people.
It's similar to the pod.
So this is why I want you to get it, because I need Costner on the pod. And I think you guys should have Costner at the Land Expo, and we parlay that into Costner on the pod.
I think that's a great idea. And in fact, I know one of the people we were looking at may be involved in a show that Kevin Costner was in, and I know it didn't quite happen, but executive producer of Yellowstone was a guy we were looking at as a keynote speaker, but it didn't happen.
Does Kevin Costner own land?
Oh, yeah, he has a ranch out west.
Have you not seen Yellowstone? He's the biggest landowner in Montana.
But no, Kevin Costner does have a ranch in Colorado.
What a dad joke. How did you guys not laugh at my joke before, but then you laugh at that crap?
What was the joke that you said earlier that was bad?
Shut up. Let's move on.
So, tell Steve Brewer to pony up for the $100,000 for Costner or whatever, just so we can interview him here on the pod.
Hey, so we do have a phenomenal program this year, and you know what?
Who's the guy this year?
Sam Zell. Yeah,
help me out. Who's Sam Zell?
Oh my God,
what TV show is he on?
Was Tim living under a rock? He's not on a TV show. Sam Zell is
a Bitcoin guy.
I'm a little loose on the details, but he is a real estate mogul. And people who are involved in real estate investing, or
he's a billionaire from Chicago. He was an attorney to start out his career, and then he started a company in Chicago buying undervalued businesses. I think it was called Equity Group, and he's really well respected in the investment industry.
Oh yeah, the guy's worth $6 billion. I'm looking him up right now. Michigan guy, Northwestern. Okay,
a lot like us. You and I. Does the name Sam Zell do a lot in your industry? Like, when you say that name, it's like, oh yeah, we need to.
Yeah, it's hit and miss a little bit. Like, it'll absolutely sell some tickets, but he is a phenomenal speaker, and he's absolutely going to sell a few tickets. People are going to recognize that name.
So the jury's still out on Sam Zell because it hasn't happened yet. Who's been the biggest? Has it been Trump? Has it been Kevin O'Leary?
I think one thing that's interesting about the Land Expo is Steve, our boss. He's a visionary, but we don't always, a lot of conferences you go to, it's always someone on one side of the aisle. So we've had Donald Trump, and then the following year we've had Martha Stewart, and we've had
you had Martha Stewart
as a keynote. So
that was awesome.
And is she a landowner?
Yeah, Martha's Vineyard.
You look at. Jeez.
That's a joke.
Yeah. So Donald Trump was actually my
22.6 an acre.
So Donald Trump was my favorite speaker. So towards the end of the Land Expo, he's up there, and so Steve says, "Hey Donald," after. She was like, "Hey Donald, I've gotten 150 different emails or texts or calls of how did I get Donald Trump to come speak at my event, or how did you get Donald Trump to come to the Land Expo?" And so Donald Trump is funny because he goes, "Well, Steve, I kind of heard you're going to ask me that question, so I thought about giving you kind of a cute answer, but the truth of the matter is I'm giving a speech tomorrow at I think it was some other conference, and he's like, the people of Iowa are great. I love the people of Iowa. And then the third reason was probably the real reason. It was, hey, Steve paid me a lot of money to be here. So just the kind of straight shooting of Donald Trump was actually pretty fun. But yeah, I mean, like to Andrew's point, you're not trying to, this is our event, and you're not trying to, we don't answer to anybody on this event, which is kind of nice. We're We're not somebody that has to have this speaker that fits this narrative or this speaker fits this other narrative. And so we've had people as like he said, we had Donald Trump, and then we had in the political vein, we had Mary Madeline and
James Carville.
Yeah, the Raging Cajun. And so
do you know who they are, Tim?
Yes, I do.
You know the guy? Yeah, you do. The guy from Old School.
Well, James
Will
Carville
Ferrell debates.
was on CNN for like the last 30 years. He was prominent in the Clinton campaign.
Correct.
He was on
Absolutely.
Old School when Will Ferrell blacks out. You know, it was like,
but
what
then,
did I say?
But then his wife, Mary Madeline,
Was always she's
the
a
Bush.
right winger.
yeah,
That was
she
kind
was
of
Bush
always the interesting
campaigns.
thing.
So it was fun to have them there.
With the
and
Bush
then-
family.
So actually, one of my favorite speakers
Skull and
was
Bones.
this guy. We had this guy from New York. I can't even think of his name. He's the big short guy.
The big short guy.
Do you remember? Yeah, it's
Not
Steve,
Michael Lewis, but
No,
like,
Steve Carell plays him in the movie
Yeah,
The Big
the
Short.
guy, the actual guy.
Okay.
Oh, I'm embarrassed. I can't remember his name, but he came and spoke. He was the one who I was identifying the issues in the the tranches of the secondary mortgage market, and he was kind of the one who made
The B-rate tranches.
a ton of money by basically betting against them, shorting the secondary market. So,
you guys are actually a national brand when it comes to real estate, farmland, and land acquisition. You have offices all over the place, and I'm not just trying to like stroke you here, but
yeah.
It is always fascinating to me, especially when I look at the expo. I'm always reminded, like, we drink beer together, but these are also like big time players in the space.
Yeah, the thing I've realized of having a beer with some of the people that you would consider very important, right, or very like out of touch or out of you don't have access to them. God,
Right.
they still enjoy joking around, drinking beer, and they're not as untouchable as you might think. And you've had to realize that in your world, some of these athletes and these previous stars that you've like been able to connect with. I mean, they're just regular people, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think once you get in the room with anybody, you realize that we're all just people, and don't be starstruck,
Right.
Don't put people up on
Right.
a pedestal.
Except Costner.
Costner. The hardest part is just getting
To him.
to him, right? Once you're to him,
Do you have his address? Can't you just go to his house and knock on the door?
Well, Tori's not here right now because her and Fitz on a road trip out to Costner's place because I think if she shows up with the kid, it might be a better entryway.
Yeah.
I noticed, we haven't talked about it yet, but we did a thing a couple of months ago, Matt, where we met Danny Ainge. And,
Yeah.
We met
I didn't even recognize the guy.
I recognized him. Nobody else recognized him. I recognized Danny Ainge right away. And then, it was kind of for your upcoming wedding this next year. Big Z did not show up that day.
Yeah.
Are you holding that against him?
I've forgiven him.
Yeah.
Big Z, how did you miss that night?
Yeah, I feel really bad. Actually, it's
you.
So Matt was going to ask me to be in his wedding that night, and he said, "Hey, you coming?" And he had told me about the trip they were going out to Pier and doing this whole thing. And I said, "Oh, actually, I'm too busy. I'm not going to make it." And so he texted me, "Well, I was going to ask you to be in my wedding, so I guess I'll just ask you now over text." And you want to talk about
Your excuse was just you were too busy?
No, you had a COVID shot, I thought, and then you
have
you
my
were
second
under the
COVID.
weather for a couple days, and
But then it was after that, and I was just trying to catch up. And if I felt like Matt would understand more than anyone because he's been there.
But you're the guy that leaves his family all the time.
Oh man,
Yeah.
here we go.
the Braves are more important than his friendship. That's what I'm finding
If
out.
Acuna asked him to hang out that night, he would
I would be gone. If Chipper Jones calls, I'm out of here. Sorry, boys.
Hey, what's up with that guy wearing pearls around his neck? That guy's
Jock
nuts.
Peterson. He's
Matt.
just bringing some swag to the.
You haven't played a day of organized baseball in your life, so you don't get it.
He is Jock Peterson is the ultimate
Swag king.
swag king, and he just brings the locker room together. He is a big part of the reason the Braves are where they're at. And I think Tim sent me a text the other day saying Jock looks 30 pounds overweight,
He's
but
heavy.
He's looking good to me the way he's swinging that bat.
So Tim, this has probably come up in previous pods because you love to talk about yourself, but
Do you remember my joke? Do you remember my joke at Tim's thing?
Oh, what? You know what? Why don't you share it with our listeners? Our listeners, not with the listeners. With the listeners.
Matt's
This ain't my
taking ownership
podcast.
of the pod.
Tell the joke.
Tell the joke.
How do you know someone has a podcast? They'll tell you about it. And I actually just took CrossFit and podcast and took them back and forth.
It's like being a vegan. CrossFitting, having a podcast, it's all the same.
What did you? So I'm curious. So back in your, because you Iowa Central 2 years, right?
Yeah,
and then at UNI for 2 more.
Yeah.
So what was your, I'm just thinking like what kind of swag did you wear? What kind of
on the baseball field?
No, I'm trying to think of like if your superstitions did you have? Did you have anything like? Did you make sure that you put your left shoe on before your right shoe?
Yeah, from a superstition standpoint, of course, I'm Catholic, so I'm not superstitious, right? Superstitions are of the devil.
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
As a baseball guy, though, I liked routine. That is not funny. That is not funny.
That's a Michael Scott joke. Come on. Any Office fan is going to recognize that.
All right. Hit us with your routine.
Well, I like to do things the same way. You and I at Iowa Central, I was always the guy like I cared less about how I looked and more about just making sure that like I had everything prepared for me to perform that day. So as it related to like the right socks on, I had everything buttoned up the way I wanted it to. Like I didn't care what people thought of me. All I cared about was how I felt and if I could perform correctly and the way I wanted to with the way my uniform was and how I warmed up and all that stuff.
Do you feel that way, Matt, on auction day when you're buttoning up your black shirt and you're driving to
like you're wearing the same shirt, you got it tucked in, you
Yeah.
got the bright belt on, you're in the comfortable socks, you get your right warm up in, like all that stuff matters to get yourself in the right mindset to perform that day. And that's what I'm about. So I didn't care like how I looked, whatever is like, but I know that if my shoes are shined, if my belt is buckled, if I got the right clothes on, I don't have to worry about that stuff. So I can go out and I can perform and I can shut out the Southern Illinois Salukis.
See ya, Salukis.
In the right way. Yeah. Evansville Aces, no chance.
I feel the same way about a land auction, though. Like, I'm a little superstitious in the mornings, like, because I'm Lutheran, so I can be superstitious, I guess, not quite as of the devil.
Or a little stitious.
But my thought is, when I wake up in the morning, I got to get my boots on. I got to get my khakis. I put on that black shirt, feel comfortable, look in the mirror. It's go time.
The last thing I want to cover here before we wrap this up, because I got to make sure I get home before Fitz's bedtime.
Yes.
Big time. Helicopter dad.
So the trusted co-host, Tom Griffin, is not here today. Typically, Tom is here. And I didn't bring Tom along because I know there is some animosity between Matt and Tom. It stems from an alcohol incident back in high school.
It does.
And then it showed its ugly face at my bachelor party where we were playing flag football in the backyard. And you and Tom, had to be separated. Some unsportsmanlike conduct between the two of you at one point. And just, do we want to bury the tomahawk tonight or do we?
I would love to bury the tomahawk. I bury the hatchet. You keep calling it tomahawk.
Because of the Braves.
Oh, God. I should have picked that up. Non-baseball player here, obviously.
Never played a
so
day before.
First off, I think you're embellishing the situation just a little bit. So Tom Griffin, I think, is a great tax-paying American. No issues at all with Tom Griffin. I think he's a phenomenal guy. But yeah, Tom was a teacher at Kemper, I think, for a short term.
His very first year out of college, he taught and was, I think, the wrestling coach and a teacher at Kemper.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my sisters, let's see, would be my. Oh, this is embarrassing. My sister Allison. I think that's okay to say. My sister Allison.
Just call her by her name.
Yeah. I mean, people would figure it out either way. But Allison is trying to, as high school kids do or don't do, I guess. But Allison is like at a gas station trying to buy beer with a fake ID, or was hoping she'd get lucky, or whatever the case was, and happened to be next to her happened to be next to Tom Griffin. So unfortunately, Tom had to do what a teacher would do and reprimand her for that. So anyways, I didn't know that until Tim's bachelor party. Tim tells me that Tom is the guy who had turned my sister in, and I said, well, I got two schools of thought. One, that really sucks that he had to do that, but two, I respect what he did.
Tom's a rule follower.
But then I just couldn't help, and it had nothing to do with Tom, but that flag football game the next day, swim move. Did you ever see Reggie White's move, his hump move?
No.
That's what I was trying to do to Tom.
So, Tom was taking it pretty seriously. You were taking it pretty seriously. Do you think you got the best of him that day, or is there still some scores to be settled?
I think I'm a better lineman than Tom.
Wow. Here we go.
This is
I'm
not
kidding.
buried. This is far from
kidding.
buried.
The tomahawk is visible.
I would like you to cut that part out.
I'm glad that Tom is not here right now. My basement, there might be a hole in it here.
No, I think it's wild. You play a little flag football or two-hand touch football game after being out of the game for so long. You feel alive again.
Oh yeah.
Tim, are you doing flag football this year?
Funny you ask. I got asked to play this weekend in the state flag football.
And you got to go.
I can't. No, because Tori's got the Iowa Catholics Women's Conference
yes.
tomorrow, and I got to watch Fitz all day.
Yeah.
But
It's not watching.
flag football, I do think, is the greatest game that God ever invented.
Yeah, you just
It's a beautiful game.
You just really get you feel alive again. All those old emotions come back. So no, I zero animosity towards Tom. He did what he had to do. We were both just competing on the field.
Big Z, if you're a teacher, 23 years old, you're a teacher, you see one of your students buying beer at the gas station, you letting them slide?
I think it's a tough thing, but no, probably not. You probably got to turn them in. You gotta do what you got to do. So I get.
We talked about this before.
The big eye,
the big eye,
integrity, and it's a tough thing. But who knows? I haven't been put in the situation. So
Big Z and I were on a bachelor party one time. And we'll keep the names private, but Big Z and I, everybody else was out on the dance floor, mucking it up. A lot of them single guys, not getting any trouble, just having a good time. Big Z and I were married.
Yep.
We got rings on our fingers.
Happily
married, Christian men.
Correct.
And, one of the other guys there just starts saying, don't you guys ever wonder about, what would happen? We're out of state. Nobody's going to know. And Big Z and I look at each other and we just said, there's a thing called integrity.
No, Tim looked at me because I was kind of looking at this guy, like seeing some of these girls. I was like, wow, yeah, no. And then Tim brought me right back to earth. He's like, Z, big eye, integrity.
And you know what? We held down that booth.
Yeah.
We did.
And then I went back to the gambling table right outside. So it was really it kept her on the straight and narrow that night. Yeah.
We picked our vices.
I'm glad to hear that. That would be a lot like me when, of course, I don't have a lot of choice because when I go on either bachelor parties or guys trip when Rochelle's not around, she forces me to wear a T-shirt that says I have a girlfriend, and so I don't really get much I don't get much interest or attention from other women.
I think me and Tim can both agree that Rochelle is a saint, honestly, and not because you're a bad guy, but just
you're marrying up, Matt.
Yeah, big time, out kicking the coverage, as some would say.
I was gonna say the old punt coverage. I'm out
Reggie
kicking
Roby.
it.
Reggie Roby, Miami Dolphin MVP.
Who was that guy from the Eagles that was just a special team star? Remember Mark Wahlberg played him?
Yeah, Vince Papale.
Yeah.
Invincible.
Yeah.
I was thinking the garbage picking, field goal kicking Philadelphia phenomenon, played by Tony Danza, of course.
Yeah.
But
hey, I got an idea for a podcast idea. The Sabres family does a field goal contest.
The Raber Trophy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to
live stream it.
Oh my God. Do you think they wear a square toe? My dad was a kicker in high
I
school.
wouldn't be shocked if Greg Sabers showed up with the square toe.
Yeah.
I don't think Mark needs it because Mark's a natural athlete. You had Michael Sabers. They call him Peony. He played tight end at Iowa.
Ooh.
He won it maybe 5 years in a row. But then as they're getting older, you have guys like Luke that have stayed in great shape, and most of the Sabres clan think Luke is the best athlete in the family.
Wow.
But now you have a next generation of Sabres that are coming up now.
I think Mark Sabres has won it a handful of years in a row, maybe 2-3 years in a row too.
Mark's a great athlete, a triathlete himself, an Ironman. He's been on the pod, 999.
Yes, he has. Yeah.
Well, guys.
Yeah, it's good. Glad we got to introduce ourselves to the Moonlight audience.
So that wraps up our episode with Big Z and Matty Adams. And as you heard there towards the end of the episode, our quest for Costner could be heating up. If these People's Company guys, if they bring in Kevin Costner, an A-list guy at one of their annual events here, hey, we might be able to sneak an interview in while he's there. These guys bring in A-list type guys like Costner, so it could potentially happen. The Costner quest is not dead. It is not dead, folks. And I should point out, thank you guys. This was our second episode of this week. Thank you all for listening to the Larry Bittner episode. Man, that episode is doing really, really well. As far as downloads go, got a lot of social media activity on it as well. So thank you for listening, for sharing that on social media. Really appreciate it. Larry Bittner, quite the moonlighter. Really appreciate you guys listening to that. And thanks especially to the Moonlight Graham Show team. We put out 2 episodes this week. It's not always easy to do. So special thanks to my brothers Andy and Neil. Special thanks to Tommy Griffin, who had to do 2 write-ups this week. He is the best. And, also, as you heard, a rival of Matt Adams. Thanks to Brendan Gargano, put together 2 pieces of art this work. He's the best in the business, folks. And Brian Sandvig, our production engineer. I think I change his title every week. Thanks to Brian Sandvig. And thank you guys, the Moonlighters, for listening. Couldn't happen without you guys. Have a great weekend, Moonlighters.
It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. It's a pretty good program. Broadcasting to the heartland. Sports stories for the everyman. It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. Please follow us on Instagram. You're loving us on Twitter too. You download every pod we do. It's Moonlight Graham.